Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It is me, Dukect here, live on Dukect Lounge. Hopefully you can hear me and all that good stuff here. I want to make sure, because there's been a little bit of audio issues on TalkShoe.com, I want to make sure everything is all right, all good, because I love doing this show live, and that means that live shows equals interactions, equals craziness, equals thing called unpredictability, and that is what I am bringing to you here. And I'm just doing a little test here, and hopefully everything is work out just fine. If not, well, I'm going back to the audio and just there it is. Boom, works out perfectly, and I am making sure everything is on track. So how y'all doing this evening? I hope y'all doing well, and and well, there's some interesting stuff in WWE. We're going to take a look at that. And also, before we get into that, we got to look into the phone numbers as well. If you want to contact me, Dukect, remember the phone number, as always, is 724-444-7444. Once again, the code number to call into the live show is 724-444-7444. And the call ID to connect to me, Dukect, is 92417. Once again, the call ID is 92417. And if you download the TalkShoe app, TalkShoe thing, you get Shoe Phone, you can connect to me, all that good stuff. Right there, bada bing, bada boom, done. Also, if you want to just not call in or do anything else, you get the chat rooms on lock. Chat room is always there and always having fun. So don't worry, everything is good. So put some stuff on here. And let's see, where are we going to talk about right now? All that good stuff. What are we going to be talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Well, let's talk a little WWE, some interesting stuff in the WWE world right now. The rumors, there has been rumors circulating and such. And there's rumor, and I'll have to link to this ksheets.com. Rumor is that the WWE's dual branding pay-per-views, that they might be coming back. And the rumor has it that not only that they're going to be actually longer. And according to the Dave Meltzer, this, you got to take it like 50-50 and such. As ever from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, is that he is anticipating, WWE is anticipating 5-hour-long shows once the company switches back to dual brand pay-per-views and network specials. He says, quote, while again not official, within WWE, the belief was that because of having to fit the top stars on both brands, that the former B shows will be increased an hour with 2 match pre-shows and 4-hour pay-per-views. They will have both shows specifically pushing the same pay-per-view every month, and all the top stars will be on it. The negative is a lot of the middle and lower class acts will not be on pay-per-view as much, if at all. And if they are not on the pay-per-view, they will be less focused on television. One of the benefits of the brand split, which came to ratings, has been a success since SmackDown is more popular and Raw's massive side has decreased, is that more wrestlers are being featured each week as stars, because they have to fill those hours of television. You probably get more stipulation matches on television shows that would have been on pay-per-view with mid-level guys, which sadly is going to be the case. And it goes on and such. But, it's a problem which I've been saying with WWE for many, many years and many, many moons. The problem is bad time management. Oh, Lord, the bad time management. Bad time management and all that good stuff. Yeah, there it is. Put it like this. Yes. I'm just going to be talking about this stuff again. We talk about this stuff again, ladies and gentlemen, over and over again. Over and over, time after time in this whole, this whole stuff. It's the same song and dance. It's the same stuff here, and I'm frustrated. I am just frustrated talking about this same BS about this show. the same, same problems that this thing is time management. Instead of actually filling a show with actually stars, um, uh, uh, you know, talking about the stars and all that good stuff. Instead, they are just doing the same stuff again with like fitting in all these top stars. And I can see some people like, oh, I can see how that is going to be a good thing. I'm like, you know what? No, I don't see this as a good thing. I don't see it as a really positive thing. And the reason why I don't see it as a positive thing is because you're just doing the same thing that people just didn't care for before you did the blank split. And even during the blank split, that you didn't get no young stars because they didn't have time. You have a lot of 30 and 40-minute matches, again, that won't mean anything. The matches that go way too long. In fact, that's one of the problems that NXT TakeOver had. The matches were way too long. I mean, Ember Moon's finish should have happened like after a minute and so. The hardcore match, that hardcore match between Aleister Black and Adam Cole, baby, was way too long. It needed to do this. A little bit of a snap. Take that set like 20 minutes, take down to 15 to 20. 15 to maybe 10 minutes. You could have got that stuff done in 15 minutes. That sort of thing. You don't want to overextend your welcome. That's the problem today. They go all out in these matches that at the end of the day mean nothing. Let me say this again. The matches mean nothing if you go overboard and overbook and all this other stuff here. That's the main problem with this. They just keep going and going and going and going to a point that it becomes tiresome. And the crowd loses interest. And it just goes, I mean, it's like sometimes I honestly think if WWE cut the matches, especially during WrestleMania, and all these other pay-per-views, if they do that, I think they'll be a lot more, better received. I think something like that. I mean, a good 10-minute match, I'd rather have a really good 10-minute match than an overbloated 20-minute match, if you get my saying. But that's just my personal thing. That's what I believe in. I mean, I want like better use of our time. And now you have this whole thing is that you're gonna have the brands are gonna be going to be on dual brand. That means you can have 2 world championship matches, 2 tag team title matches, 2 women's championship secondary titles, women matches, and 2 world title. I mean, and a cruiserweight title, which by the way doesn't get featured. Which I think he points this out. Dave Meltzer points this out, and that's the problem. They have too many championship bouts. The one thing they should be doing is if they're going to do dual brand pay-per-views, they should just go back to one championship. In fact, just have one Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion, have one tag team championships and such, and have one World Champion and a Cruiserweight belt, and a one Intercontinental U.S. Championship as well. Give the shows, that if they're going to do dual brand pay-per-views. It doesn't, if you're doing this combined stuff, it destroys the brand extension. It makes it pointless. To me, there's a ton of there were a lot of stars in the WWE that would not have been stars if they didn't have a brand extension. They had to fight all for Raw and SmackDown. SmackDown, I think to me, this right here is probably the best type of stuff here. Is SmackDown and Raw is better separated. It's better to have these single brand pay-per-views, even though I think personally, they don't need a pay-per-view every week and month. Our network special. Honestly, I think it's best they could do. This is, to me, a wasted opportunity for the WWE network. Is that instead of actually saying, hey, instead of like, okay, let's slow down, and let's mix things up. Instead of having a championship match at the top of the card, make a number 1 contendership match. How about have the Intercontinental title main event, or the U.S. Championship main event, or the tag team titles main event a show? Or heck, you want to go for the whole progressive brass ring, have a women's title championship match headline a WWE Network show, a WWE Network pay-per-view. I think that'd be interesting instead of having Roman Reigns, AJ Styles, this, that, the other go in a pointless 5-way. How about having, Charlotte versus Becky Lynch as the main event? Or Asuka versus Sasha Banks as the main event for the Women's Championship. or have Ember Moon versus let's see, Carmen. I don't know, something. It would have been interesting and different. I think that some people would like that. A lot of people would like that. A lot of people would like to have that type of difference, that type of shake up, instead of having a world championship either show being on that, being on that last card of the match. It would actually bring some prestige to that championship. It would actually make the championship seem important. And I know that people will want to see it. If you book it correctly, if you do it correctly, if you do it right, you can and you will have a lot more money in business if you know how to book this right, if you know how to set it up right. I believe that with all my heart. If WWE knows how to set this up right, you can have something really good, great stories and great moments can be told by this method. Instead, they're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And that's why, and it's even worse if they do a 4-hour, 5-hour pay-per-view. You're oversaturating the market, which is another problem with WWE. Again, if you have like dual brand pay-per-views, which you'll say, oh, we're going to have less pay-per-views now, which is, well, fine. But, when you have like 4 or 5 hour pay-per-views, it's going to make a 5-hour pay-per-view is on Sunday. Then you got Raw, which is going to make it 3 hours, which is like going to be 8 hours. Then SmackDown, which is what? Another 2 hours of that? So that's 8. That's what? 10 hours of wrestling. And what about 205 Live? That's another hour. Next Match Challenge is like, 15, 17 minutes. You got that stuff on there. So, yeah, you got like 11 hours and 15, 16 minutes or whatever. Then NXT, which is an hour. So you have like 12 hours. And then finally you have the NXT TakeOver events. It was like 2 hours plus. So that's 13 plus hours of wrestling. That's way too much. And not even counting the specials, the tournaments. And that's why I basically, I still have not seen the Mae Young Classic yet. I might do it. I might do like a review or look at a series if, later on. It's because when it was on, like I said, I was burnt out. I just hit burnout. I didn't want to watch anything WWE related. I just couldn't do it anymore. They made me I felt like it was just, I couldn't watch it anymore. And that was the frustrating part. That was the frustrating thing about this, about putting this up there. You couldn't enjoy it. You couldn't do it. You couldn't just sit back and watch. And this is the problem with WWE right now. It just 5 hours. It just, and it's just not going to have, it won't have any of the staying power. The WWE will not have to. It will be again oversaturation, and that's going to be more a nail in the WWE's coffin in the long run. Which seems that they keep forgetting about that whole long run mess thing, and it just seems like it's going to add more and more stuff until it just overblows itself. That's what it is. That's what happens to every empire. They become too gluttonous. They become so. They try to take over everything, but they forget about their foundations. And when they forget about their foundations, they start creaking and cracking, and then it implodes within itself. That happens to every type of big empire, every big business. They get too big for their own britches. By the time they do so, bam, they fall apart because they couldn't handle their own inner workings. They forgot about the inner workings. They went off on their own, tried to expand and continue to expand without actually looking at their foundations. And if you don't have foundations, if you don't have good foundations, and you have good foundations, but you ignore them over time and time and time, guess what happens, ladies and gentlemen? It's done. You can't do anything about that. You can't save it. But again, that's just my personal opinion. Anyway, we'll be right back right after this. And we'll take a small musical break. And when we get back, we have some actually positive video game news and such. And something that's actually very interesting about an interesting video game study that was just released here and such. It's very interesting and very positive. We'll be right back right after this here live on the Dukect Lounge. are back here live on the Dukect Lounge. Thank you so much for joining me here on TalkShoe.com. Remember, the phone number, as always, is 724-444-7444. What's good to call ID to connect to me, Dukect, is 92417. And, yeah, it's been a really rough week for everyone. It's been, another day and another school shooting and such. And people all sitting around blaming everyone around, blaming everything on this, that, the other. I found actually a report that was going to be some idiotic senator that was blaming video games again, and I was going to run this report. I was going to talk about it and that sort of stuff, but you know what? No, I was like, you know what? That whole thing, was just the whole. Oh yes, the evil video games thing is just played out, beyond played out, and I'm just, I think a lot of people don't want to hear those type of the stuff there and all that, the stuff there about how what caused this stuff, and personally, I'm more of a solutions guy myself, and quite honestly, when you look at the stuff here that's going on, I don't know what the solution is. I don't. Some say it's easy just to ban all the guns, which I just sit back and like, how are you going to do that? You can't you can ban a plant, and how you're going to ban another inanimate object, and by the way, I don't want to put my politics in here, but screw it. Before we get to this other story, which is interesting, but I'll say this. There has to be better screenings taking place, better stuff that actually makes sure that people with issues don't get these type of guns. Make sure they're better monitored by not only just by their parents, but also people around, like, hey, social media and everything else. If there's like warning signs, talk to people, get him the help that person needs before they actually do something completely horrible. Stuff like that. They should have like some warning signs. Heck, this country should. We went hard on, like, say, drunk drivers. That sort of. We should have something like that. Of course, the stuff still happens, and sadly does. But we should have, like, back in the 90s, since since like it was like Combine, we should have. This country should have, like, okay, what are we going to do to prevent this? I know the stuff is not impossible to prevent, but let's see if we can manage it. Something like that does not include a radical police, giving more power to police state and everything else, which sadly, that's just, I don't think that's going to work out good for anyone. But I think a system that will make sure that people who do buy guns have, like, it'd be really hard for them to get a gun and something like that, and also find a way to track or do something about this the black market. I know that's a fool's errand, but something has to be done, and hopefully, you get actually competent leaders in the positions of power. Something can happen, but right now, with the current power structure right now, we probably won't have anyone else. Heck, if you even had competent leaders, it still will be hard because there's so much polarization in this nation about guns and how to fix it. And I don't think, say, borrowing other nations' ideas will work either. So. But yeah, it's a very trying time, and people wanted to blame each other. And I didn't want to put I think I just did, but, I don't want just like that negative stuff there, Like I said, I want to do solutions and such. But then I'm just one person on a podcast, in a sea of podcast, as it were. And I guarantee you this will probably be demonetized because we're talking some event and such. But you know what? Who cares? Who cares about that? But anyway, on YouTube, it'll probably be demonetized because, I'm talking about the school shooting or something like that. So it'll probably be demonetized, but screw it, who cares? If I was just talking about it, But anyway, who cares about that? YouTube is gonna YouTube. But anyway, I want to get into the story that I recently found during my search day. This is actually something good about mental health and about people with schizophrenia. It says video game. It's a mobile health news. Link will be in the description. It says, and in the article title says, "Video game trains people with schizophrenia to block verbal hallucinations." It is by Laura Lovett, and it was recently came out. It says, quote, here's the article in question. A small study recently published in Translational Psychology showed that people living with schizophrenia could use a video game paired with an MRI scanner to curb verbal hallucinations. Specifically, researchers at King's College London's Institute of Psychiatry, Psychology, and Neuroscience found that after the training, people with schizophrenia were able to better control their verbal region in their brain linked to hallucinations. Natasha Olof, the lead researcher, said in a statement, "We encourage our patients to use the same control strategies that they learned in the MRI scanner at home. The patients know when the voices are about to start. They can feel it, so we want them to immediately put this aid into effect, to lessen them or to stop the voices completely. Our study has shown that people with schizophrenia can learn some sort of mental strategy to help their systems. Something which several years of medication has not helped with." That is amazing. That is really, something really powerful right there. And the article continues. The researchers looked at data from 11 patients with schizophrenia who have verbal hallucinations. This type of hallucination is common with schizophrenia symptoms occurring in around 70% of patients. According to the study, however, traditional antipsychotic drugs have little to no effect in 30% of those who experience these hallucinations. Participants were trained to down-regulate the part of their brain within the speech-sensitive region, which is called superior temporal gyrus. In the study, participants' neutral activity in speech areas was monitored by an MRI scanner. This MRI activity was then represented by a computer rocket to patients, which they control with their neural activity. According to a statement from King's College, during the training sessions, participants were told to land a rocket using their mind, but were not given instructions to how to do so, allowing them to come up with their own strategies. The studies took place over 5 visits. During each visit, subsequent to the baseline, researchers measured the positive-negative system scale and psychotic rating system scale when training their participants on the MRI and video game. Every visit including 2 rounds of training. Researchers found a decrease in psychotic rating systems over time, although the score would fluctuate between visits. However, during each visit, this average psychotic rating score was lower than the second training session than in the first. During the first training session, participants were told that the rocket image would remain static, but were asked to employ the same strategies that they used during the training to see if their training could be retained. Researchers found that during this run, the psychotic rating system score was lower than the first training score, but not as low as it was during the third and fourth visit when the visual was used. Paul Allen, the author of the study and professor at the University of Roehampton, said in a statement, The results of this pilot are astonishing. Can't pronounce words to save my life. As almost everyone in the patient group was able to control the space rocket, successfully bringing the rocket in the game back down to the ground. What this means is that by using this technique, patients learn to control brain activity in the area of the brain that responds to voices, an area all we know is hyperactive in people who experience auditory verbal hallucinations. But the MRI and video game training wasn't the only research this week that suggested video games could play a role in health. Researchers at the Boston Center of Cognition, Brain and Language in the London Imperial College recently completed a study which they have mapped brain injuries in stroke patients. The results found that brain areas associated with attention control were related to areas with controlled movement. Richards said that cognitive training therapy such as video games could help stroke patients in the future. Video games have increasingly found recognition in the digital health space. Notably, Boston-based Akei Interactive Labs has developed video games to treat pediatric patients with ADHD. Currently, the company is moving ahead with plans to get the FDA clearance on the treatment. Well, that is actually cool. So, I mean, that's actually a really good news. And hopefully, using this type of treatment to help people with their mental illness, to help them actually live productive lives and get them out of the using, instead of medication, use another type of system plan to actually help them, with the help of schizophrenia, a terrible illness that has, this type of issues and such. That right there is something that this would help so many lives, so many people's lives in here. But that's just my personal thing. I think not personal, but I think this actually is helping us. I hope this actually continues to grow. More people can actually see this, and actually become like, wow, this is actually really cool. And hopefully get funding via by private or government forces, because this stuff right here could really help more people with their mental health, with people with these like diseases, and to help lead them to have productive lives. Anyway, that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Something positive, and I like ending a show, the Dukect Lounge, with something positive, because hey, you know what? The world needs a little positivity now and then, and so do I. And I bitch and moan about the silliness of pro wrestling and video games and what have you, but it's nice to end on a positive note. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's Dukect here. Peace and love. I'll see y'all when I see y'all later.